Hello everybody, it's Adam for RealHomeRecording.com. In this video, I'm going to be going through the user manual of the Thermionic Culture Vulture Super 15. This is the more expensive Culture Vulture. The original one cost about, I want to say, is it $1,500 or $2,500? And the new one, the Super 15, cost $3,500. Well, guess what? You can use the real deal on accessanalog.com. Now you have the opportunity to use this tube beast of a machine for your mixes, for your masters, and I want to know how to use it properly, and so do you. That's why you're watching RTFM. Let's get started. All right, so here's the cover page of the operator manual or operating manual for the Culture Vulture Super 15. That's a part of the front panel, obviously. And let's see. Warning. Do not take this unit seriously. The Culture Vulture Super 15 is a fun effects unit and has been designed for maximum pleasure. However, for your personal safety, please read this operating manual and this warning thoroughly before using the equipment. This unit must be installed in such a manner that operator access to the mains plug is maintained. Where the product is to be rack mounted, this may be achieved by having access to the disconnection device for the whole rack. To reduce the risk of electric shock, it is essential that the unit is disconnected from the main supply before removing the cover. Please also note that the power supply capacitors within this unit can remain charged even after the main supply has been disconnected. It is essential that these capacitors are discharged after the main supply has been disconnected and the covers have been removed. In the event that this unit has been dropped or has suffered an impact, an electrical safety test must be carried out before reconnection to the main supply. This equipment is not intended to be used in explosion hazard environments. It must be used and stored in studio conditions such that the ambient relative humidity does not exceed 80%, nor is the temperature to be allowed to drop to a level which would cause dew point to be reached. The Culture Vulture Super 15, though valve/tube based, does not run exceptionally hot. Other equipment can be mounted in the rack directly above and below it, as long as the rack is well ventilated and the ventilation slots are not obstructed. Nice. So this said it came out in 2014. Here's the table of contents. It's only 15 pages long. I think I can handle that. Okay, page 4, introduction. The Super 15 version of the Culture Vulture is introduced in 2013, which happens to be our 15th anniversary. This edition retains the features found on our 11th anniversary edition and was introduced due to the continuing demand for these features plus some enhancements. Special features are: the input gain controls now go up to 15, not just 11. Yes, it does have a little more gain. All valves/tubes are new old stock, first grade military spec for low noise, high stability, and long life. It has a 10-position function switch, which apart from the usual triode and pentode settings, has 5 mid-lift EQ settings and 3 extreme distortion settings. The user now has even more control over the type and amount of harmonics produced, from a practically clean triode setting to virtually 100% distortion. Page 5. Controls and meters. Drive. This control is really in two parts: a switch and a rotary pot. The switch gives a coarse control and the pot a fine control of the signal input level. At the first position, normal, for line level signals, the frequency response is flat. The mid position increases the gain by 10 decibels and adds some top end for extra bite. Overdrive is 28 decibels above normal and can be used for extreme distortion effects at line level. Also, guitars and other low-level sources. The drive pot controls the amount of signal you are feeding to the second distortion valve, a 5725, so the higher it's set, the more effect. It should be used in conjunction with the output level control. Output level. This simply controls the signal going to the output valve. A negative 10 decibels switch is provided for more accurate control when a Vulture is driven hard. Also for comparison, see section 2.5. Bias and meter use. This control varies the current through V2 by changing the positive voltage on its cathode. The actual current is shown on the milliammeter. When the Vulture is starved of current, the sound is thinner, and when overfed, it becomes warmer and fatter. The best setting for low distortion is 0.25 milliamps. When the culture is being pushed into heavy distortion, the meters will twitch. NB. The bias pot is naturally noisy in operation as all of the valve's current is flowing through it, but it should be silent when set. .4 Function switch. T and P1 positions mean that V2 is configured as a triode, all even harmonics, or a pentode, odd harmonics. All PK positions use the pentode configuration. PK1 to PK5 have a sharp filter across the bias control, enabling the user to add a unique form of mid-lift at frequencies specially selected for musical effect. SQ1 is a very distorted sort of pentode, and SQ2 is a more extreme version of the same, equivalent to P2 in the standard Culture Vulture. SQ3 is an exciting new discovery. It will sound quite clean until overload is close, when lots of harmonics are suddenly added, and at higher levels overcompression will occur and dynamics are inverted. presence. This switch works only on the 10 decibel setting end and is out when at center position. Up, it adds plus 3 decibels and down plus 6 decibels to the mid-range, peaking at 3 kHz. The plus 10 switch itself adds a little extra top end, so one can achieve a brighter, crunchier sound using this facility. Compare by adding the negative 10 decibel switch next to the OP pot. Bypass. This switch links the line input to the output directly, cutting out the electronics of the Culture Vulture. This switch is designed to compare the vulturized sound to the original. It is disabled when the DI input is used. The process signal will always come up on output low. Page 7. General operational hints. When just warming the sound, use T or P1 settings with output level control at 10 for line level output. Turn down the control as you increase input level and or with increased V2 current settings. Turn to max for most SQ1 and SQ2 applications. The cleanest setting for the bias is 0.25 milliamps, and this should be used to give sounds just a bit more naturality. A good setting to simulate analog tape distortion is T, normal drive, meter set to 0.3 to 0.4 MA. The most popular setting generally appears to be P1 0.4 MA. The PK settings were designed with guitars in mind, but they can be used equally well with keyboards and other instruments. We have found that because the frequency peak operates around the bias section of the circuit, the EQ effect is quite unique in its results. There is a subtle expansion effect happening along with the peaking effect that gives a far more interesting and interactive result to the distortion than simply EQing the signal into or out of the unit would ever achieve. This adds a very interesting dimension to the way an electric guitar player responds to the unit and vice versa. So select your setting bearing in mind the musical key. The treated instrument will really stand out in the mix. Remember, reducing the V2 current will increase the lift, whereas no bias or max current will nullify the effect. On the squash SQ settings only, it's a characteristic of the type of valve used that a frequency doubling effect can occur when distortion sets in. This can be quite interesting and is most likely to occur with high bias, around 0.1 MA current. Use the plus 10 setting of the drive switch if you want a little more bite. There may be sufficient gain to use this setting for some electric guitars when DI'd, if a low bias, high current through V2 is used. Otherwise, use the overdrive setting when DI'ing guitars. Use the filter switch to reduce unpleasant upper harmonics, especially useful when using SQ effects. NB. There is little chance of retaining an accurate stereo picture when using SQ settings. Page 9. Inputs and outputs. The input jack socket on the front panel is designed for use when DIing instruments, and when a jack plug is inserted, it cuts out any signal coming from the rear socket. There are 2 outputs per channel on the rear, labeled line out, XLR connector, and OP low, jack socket. Low is around 20 decibels below line level, plus 4 dBu, and can be used for reamping, etc. The inputs at the rear are XLR connectors and transformer balanced. All jack sockets are unbalanced. Page 10. Servicing and maintenance. Valves. The unit comes with a 12-month warranty covering all parts including valves, referred to as tubes in some countries, and it is essential that it is returned to our factory or to the dealer from which it was purchased for repairs to be carried out, otherwise the warranty is invalidated. There is, however, one important exception to this rule. If using the unit across a stereo mix or group, then ensure that you set it up with both meters reading the same, military grade ones. If a fault occurs on one channel, a valve is quite likely to be the cause. So if you feel confident and willing to do the following, here's the procedure. Unplug the power and remove the top by undoing screws which attach it. Note, one screw is shiny and must be replaced in the same place. The unit can be powered up safely without the top on, provided that the screening plate above the circuit board is not removed and reasonable care is taken not to touch exposed connections. But don't change valves with the power on. Change over the 2 input valves. These are the ones with metal screening cans nearest the left and right sides. If you press down a little and twist the can anti-clockwise, it will come off. Then gently pull out the valve. Be careful when replacing that the pins line up. Do not bend them. Plug back in and see if the fault has changed sides. If not, try changing the next pair in the distortion valve. Be sure not to mix up the valves as they are different types and have different pin connections. The valve in the center is the output valve and is a double triode common to both channels. This is very robust. We have had to replace less than 11 in 11 years, so it's unlikely to be a problem in the first 12 months. If you want to be sure, you can replace it with the common ECC 82 12AU7 with very slightly degraded results. Spares can be obtained from Thermionic Culture. Input valves can be replaced individually, but distortion valves should be replaced in matched pairs. Your test report will show the type number of the valve fitted at the factory. To save recalibration, order the same type number from Thermionic Culture Limited. Valve complement, equivalents in brackets nearest first, and you can see all of them on screen. 5.2 operating voltage / fuse. The Culture Vulture Super 15 edition is switch selectable to operate from either 230 volts or 115 volts, 50 or 60 hertz AC main supply. So if you're in the United States, make sure it's set to 115. Note, mains fuses may be replaced in accordance with the following table. And you can see that on screen. I would maybe keep one of these handy because you never know. So on screen are the different specs for this unit. They look quite nice. And then we can see the frequency response of all the different distortion types on screen. All right, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope more importantly you learned something. And there will definitely be more RTFM videos in the future. But yeah, Culture Vulture, good stuff. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com. See you in the next video, as always.
Thanks for watching this RealHomeRecording.com video. You can get monthly audio engineering news and exclusive videos by signing up for our newsletter.